and welcome to the newest season of Beyond the Whistle. This episode marks season 4, episode 1, and today we're going to be talking about the NFL season. I'm Henry Lapin, joined by Rob Frangione, Ryan Bell, and Jason Generalis. And boys, I know we're so excited that NFL is back into our lives. I'm a little sad as a Giants fan that the season has officially started, so that's going to be downhill from here. But week 1 just happened. Week 2 starts tonight. And I know we're all so excited for the rest of the NFL season. So without further ado, let's get into it. Week 1, we saw a lot of great games, a lot of blowouts, but overall, I think most of it was what we expected. So, Bell, why don't you tell us what you think about week 1?
I think it's great that football's back. I mean, now I can sit on my couch for 7 hours and just listen to Scott Hansen, which is kind of maybe the best thing of all time. But it was a great week 1. I mean, we saw some fantastic games. You mentioned some blowouts, but I think to start the weekend, obviously the Thursday night game, Chiefs-Ravens, that was such a fun game, coming down to literally the last play. Packers-Eagles was phenomenal Friday night, questionable field in Brazil, but I feel like there's always something going on with these international games. And then the Sunday slate was great. I know each of you guys are going to touch on a couple of games, but I thought all in all it was a fantastic slate of games.
Yeah, Rob, what do you think?
I got to say, I was just entertained, pure entertainment the entire weekend. I mean, yeah, Saturday night's game, no, Thursday night's game, apologize, was great. That was fun, great fun. I couldn't watch the Eagles-Packers game, but I got to say, I was watching the highlights during my CompGov class a couple days ago, and that was awesome. And that Sunday window, that 1 o'clock window, first of all, I'm a Patriots fan, so that was just brilliant. It was beautiful seeing my guys win for week 1 for the first time in God knows how long. And another game I'd like to mention was the Texans-Colts game. I got to say, I wasn't rooting for I wasn't really picking a side there, but when Anthony Richardson launched that 60-yard touchdown,
Gorgeous.
oh my God, just satisfaction, hitting and firing on all cylinders, man. It was just a great week of football. Maybe except for that Saints-Panthers game, which I did not see coming, but that was still pretty entertaining.
Rob, I can say you're not the only one watching NFL week 1 highlights in class.
Oh, yeah.
Jason, what do you think about week 1 so far?
I think all the games were phenomenal. I mean, even some of the blowouts, well, they didn't fully satisfy to watching. I'm sure a lot of us benefited from the fantasy points that were given. Something that was really surprising to me was I expected the Bears to win. I had them as my winner, although I did not expect the 2 Bears special teams touchdowns and defensive touchdowns. Caleb Williams did not start out strong. Hopefully he could pick it up later in the year, but I thought that was a very interesting game to watch, especially starting down 17-0.
Yeah, so for me as a Giants fan, I went to the Giants game, tailgated from 9 a.m., and God, that was a horrible performance. That was one of the worst Giants games I've ever watched in my life. Daniel Jones did nothing. He is incompetent as a quarterback. He is just doing everything wrong as an NFL player. He was good to the media, but it's hard to be good. It's hard to be bad to the media when all you're saying is, let's just check the film. So beyond that, I think we had a lot of good debuts, coaching and player debuts. We saw Mike McDonald for the Seattle. They got off with a win against the Broncos, and we saw Harbaugh with the Chargers debut. I think week 1 there were a lot of rookies that looked like rookies, but a lot of mistakes from a lot of teams. But I think it was a great week 1, and I think we're all excited for week 2.
Absolutely.
So guys, Rob, who was your pick for player of the week 1?
All right, so for this week, I mean, obviously, you had a lot of great performances. I got a bit of an underrated one right here. How about kicker Chris Boswell versus the Falcons? He scored all 18 points for the Steelers off of 6 field goals, which I believe amounted for around, 26 fantasy points?
Oh, yeah.
Something that he actually did versus the Chiefs in the 2016 divisional round. So this isn't his first rodeo, which is pretty entertaining. But I got to say, whenever you score all of your team's points, that's got to be a pretty good campaign or pretty good, stat line for Rookie of the Week or Player of the Week.
Yeah, Bell, who's yours?
For me, it's got to be Jordan Mason. I mean, who would have thought that with Christian McCaffrey being out, the 49ers are going to have another running back that's going to step up, and then in comes Jordan Mason, right? 28 carries, 147 yards, almost $150 and a touchdown on the ground. I know a lot of fantasy managers are panicking, the night Christian McCaffrey's out. Who am I going to pick up? You pick up Jordan Mason. You put up so many fantasy points, probably won a ton of fantasy matchups for people.
I want to say 26.
Yeah, something around there. Yeah. But not even for fantasy, just a great game overall playing at Minnesota this week. I'm excited to see how he'll play depending on, how McCaffrey is.
Jason, who's your pick?
I picked Saquon Barkley. First year on the Eagles. Had a hat trick for touchdowns, rushed for 109 yards, and also had a little bit of pass catching in there. I just think that he's doing phenomenal behind a better O-line, and I think I'm excited to see what's gonna come. I'm sure he's glad to get off the Giants. No offense to you, but I think he's gonna look very good on this Eagles offense.
That hurt me. That hurt me as a Giants fan, Jason. But my pick, like Rob's, blue guy, locker room guy, let him date my daughter. Logan Wilson, 13 tackles, 6 assisted, 1 forced fumble, a 92.5 PFF grade. Second highest grade by any defensive player of week 1. He was just phenomenal. The 28-year-old linebacker for the Bengals is having his breakout season. 3 consecutive seasons with 100-plus tackles. But I think he can go as a superstar linebacker this year. Now, week 1 also marks the debut of our 2024 rookies. The class that was highlighted by quarterbacks, Caleb Williams, those painted fingernails, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. The Giants could trade up for a quarterback. A lot of great storylines from that NFL draft, but we saw how it played out week 1. So, Bell, who was your pick for the Rookie of the Week award?
There's a lot of guys I could have went with here. Defense, offense, special teams. I'm not giving any hate to anyone, but for me, I went with Brian Thomas from the Jags. And when you look at it, it might not seem like the greatest game, but just production wise, that 1 touchdown catch he has was phenomenal. I mean, you got to give credit to Trevor Lawrence for that throw. I don't know if you saw the throw. He let go of that ball when it was like triple coverage, perfectly back corner for Brian Thomas. I'm excited to see him kind of go on. I also have him on my fantasy bench, so maybe kind
As did I.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm excited to see how he's going to play. Obviously, at LSU, you're playing so much good competition that can transition to the NFL really easily. So I think he's going to have a great year.
Yeah, you heard me. I had Brian Thomas on my bench over Keenan Allen, who you'll hear more of me from.
He's a little fat
later.
now.
But Henry, you're talking about how the quarterbacks were the headline of this draft class. Unfortunately, they all kind of stunk it up this week. I'd say that the best quarterback performance was from Michael Penix, so I don't think played it down. But for me, I got Rookie of the Week being Xavier Worthy versus the Ravens. I mean, obviously, he was the rookie that took over the entire game. He had 2 catches for 47 yards and 1 touchdown. And then on top of that, he had 1 carry for 21 yards and a touchdown, which really just propelled them to a 27-20 win over the Ravens. So anytime you're carrying your team in your very first game, I think that earns you Rookie of the Week.
Yeah, so my pick, I went a little different this one. Joe Alt. Offensive line might be the hardest position to play as a rookie. You are coming straight out of college against slower, weaker guys, and you go straight into the NFL playing some of the best athletes in the sport. Joe Alt allowed 0 pressures on 26 pass blocking attempts. 19 of those were versus Max Crosby, one of the premium edge rushers in the league, and he was incredible. You don't see offensive linemen doing this well as a rookie. Jason, who'd you pick?
I also went with Xavier Worthy, agreeing with Rob. I mean, anytime you get 2 touchdowns, it's phenomenal. But I mean, if you get 3 touches and 2 touchdowns, I mean, I'm excited to see what else he could do when he gets more touches with the football. And it looks like Patrick Mahomes found another Tyreek Hill for this Chiefs offense.
So NFL Week 2 kicks off tonight, and I think there are a lot of great matchups for this week, but we're going to focus on a couple. Rob, what is your key Week 2 matchup?
My key week 2 matchup is the Lions at the Buccaneers. So if you don't remember, they met in the divisional round last year where the Lions took them down. I believe it was 31-23. This time it's going to be in Tampa Bay as opposed to being in Detroit last year. I think it's going to be a pretty similar outcome. I mean, that Lions, their run defense is great. Their young pass defense is looking better each week. And I mean, yeah, Baker, he was dicing up the Commanders last week with 4 touchdowns, but it's the Commanders. They're not great. The Lions are not the Commanders. I think it's just going to be maybe a 2-score win for the Lions this week.
Bell, what's your pick?
Yeah, I'm going to the Monday night game between Atlanta and Philadelphia. Kind of 2 different contrasting teams there. Falcons played absolutely awful against the Steelers. I mean, Pittsburgh is so bad and losing that game 18-10, letting Chris Boswell score.
Give their defense credit.
You got to give the defense credit, but like Kirk Cousins, man, what? Like, it's just like that 1 pick he threw was horrible.
It was bad.
Kirko.
Yeah, not happy with the Falcons. You look at Philadelphia, obviously winning 34-29 against Green Bay. Some could say they play a good game, but I kind of looked at it a little differently. They didn't play like that great. It's a game they definitely could have lost, obviously putting up that amount of points, and Jordan Love getting hurt on that last drive. You know, who knows if he stays healthy. There wasn't enough time, obviously. But that's kind of the game I'm looking for. Eagles right now are 6.5-point favorites, so I think right now Eagles minus 6.5 would look good. But anyways, I think that's a Philadelphia kind of game.
Jason, what's yours?
I have the Bengals and the Chiefs. As I mentioned earlier, Xavier Worthy is really good on this Chiefs offense. And we saw the Bengals last week against the Patriots, who were really before the season questioning about if they were going to go 0-17. Obviously, they proved everyone wrong. They played a good game against the Bengals, but the Bengals really didn't play well on offense or defense, considering the Patriots doesn't have the best of both. And the Chiefs is really, I mean, they're two-peat Super Bowls. They did great against the Ravens, who everyone thought were legitimate Super Bowl contenders. And I just think the Bengals, unless they step it up and give a dramatic change, the Chiefs won't have a problem running through this team.
Yeah, so my pick was the Bears at Texans, Sunday Night Football. And I know after seeing my Giants get blown out by the Commanders on Sunday, I will be waiting all day for Sunday night. Caleb Williams in his first primetime game. He looked like a rookie week 1 in his debut. He made a lot of bad throws, horrible pocket presence. He looked like 32-year-old Russell Wilson out there, just running in and out of sacks. But I think he's going to look a lot better week 2, under the lights. That's where he's used to playing in college. And as for the Texans, Stroud had 2 touchdowns week 1. That receiving core looked great. As long as you keep feeding Stephon Diggs the ball and he doesn't have a little fit on the sideline, I think it'll be great for the Texans. I'm expecting them to win. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm 0-1 fantasy. Christian McCaffrey broke my heart, and my lineup, I would have needed him to score 70 points for me to have a chance. But without that saying, starts and sits is a big part of fantasy. So, Rob, who do you recommend starting and sitting week 2 of fantasy?
All right, you guys are going to have to promise me not to call me crazy here, but if you do, I totally understand. Start Alec Pierce versus the Packers. Now, last week, he had around 21 points, I believe. Granted, most of that came from 1 catch. I believe he had 3 catches for around 90-ish yards or so and a touchdown. Granted, it was that 60-yard touchdown that he caught that I was talking about earlier. But this week, you're playing the Packers. You're not the wide receiver 1. You're probably the 2 or 3 in the second or third option. Michael Pittman Jr. will be against Jair Alexander is what I'll be expecting. So that leaves a couple other guys on that Packers secondary to be taking him over. I mean, coming down under on drag routes and stuff like that, I believe that Pierce could be open once or twice, maybe even more than that, and he'll be hit for hopefully a couple more touchdowns. And that's really what I'll be looking for out of him this week. I'm expecting greatness just like last time.
I totally agree with you. I picked him up in my fantasy league. In one of my fantasy leagues, I'm expecting good things out of him.
Jason, who are your picks for week 2?
I have, contrary to some people saying after this week 1 performance, but Drake London, I have a start. He's going to be playing the Packers, not the Packers. He's going to be playing the Eagles. I think that if Kirko recovers, tries to recoup, find his receivers more, I think Drake London is a talented receiver, as we saw last year, and I think that he could get a couple of good catches against this Eagles secondary and really dominate that game. So I would be starting Drake London this week.
Bell, who should the viewers start?
I'm going to Baltimore. I'm looking at Zay Flowers right now. I had him at my flex last week. I almost said last year. Last week against Kansas City. Wasn't a bad game. 6 catches for 37 yards. Had a few rushes in there, but I just don't think the production is great. But now you're looking at this game against Las Vegas. Very sketchy secondary. I think the Raiders have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I mean, minus Max Crosby. But I think Baltimore should explode this weekend. They're 9-point favorites or 8.5, wherever you're looking at against Las Vegas. I expect Zay Flowers kind of be that over the middle kind of guy, and I expect Baltimore to have a big week.
Bell, you don't know how relieved I am that you said that, because he is wide receiver 1 in one of my leagues and wide receiver 2 in another. I crumbled under the lights in the draft night. Was not great.
Wait, how is he wide receiver 1? What happened?
We don't talk about that. Okay. So as for my team, I do have Jaden Daniels starting this week, and I think he's going to do incredible. He had 28.6 fantasy points last week. He had a lot of rushing, designed run plays, and just broken down pass plays. The offensive coordinator did said that they're going to try to make him more of a passing first quarterback. They expect passing numbers to increase each week that he plays. And while I don't expect another almost 30-point performance from him, I expect mid-20s, and that highly exceeds the 19.7 that ESPN projects. Now for sitting, these guys just going to stink it up week 2. And my pick is Tajay Spears. The Titans said that it would be a 1A, 1B situation with him and Tony Pollard, and that was just not the case week 1. Pollard dominated the backfield. He played 62 snaps with 16 carries to Tajay Spears' 4 total snaps. You just can't start a guy with that. He's a clear second running back in that backfield. So, Rob, who's your sit?
My sit for this week is Keenan Allen versus the Texans. Now, I started him last week. Very subpar performance from him. Dropped a touchdown. I think he dropped a couple other passes as well. But you've got DJ Moore as the wide receiver 1 in Chicago, and then you obviously got Romeo Dunze, who's competing for catches as well. Didn't really show much in week 1, just like Keenan Allen. But now you're playing the Texans defense, who was definitely better than the Titans last week. You've got Derek Stingley Jr., you've got Jalen Petre in that secondary. And I mean, I think you just have to wait until Caleb Williams proves that he can be a great quarterback in the league until you can start Keenan Allen again.
Bell, what's your pick?
I'm taking a tight end right now. Evan Ingram, Jaguars. They played the Browns. Evan Ingram stunk it up last week. I mean, absolutely awful. One catch. I think it was about one catch for 5 yards for Jacksonville. They play a very tough Cleveland defense this week. And looking at last week, tight ends versus Cleveland Browns. Jake Ferguson had 3 catches on 5 targets for only 15 yards last week. I know a lot of people thought Ferguson was going to pop off and have a really big week against Cleveland. I just don't see the production from Evan Ingram this week, and I would expect Trevor Lawrence to kind of move the ball around, and maybe to Brian Thomas, who was my guy earlier. So we'll kind of see on that, but no Evan Ingram this week.
Jason, who's hitting the bench?
I have Jonathan Taylor as my fantasy sit. I think he's playing a good Packers defense. They're going to have to step it up with Jordan Love injured and with a backup starting. I think we're going to see good things from this Packers defense if they want to win this game. As Rob mentioned earlier, Jair Alexander is going to be taking Michael Pittman Jr. And that's really going to make Alec Pierce and whoever their wide receiver 2 or 3 is a big option for AR. And I just don't see Jonathan Taylor being a big part of this Colts offense.
So yeah, we got a lot of fantasy input there. And final segment, the underdog of the week. Everyone loves an underdog, but sometimes you got to be smart about it. So, Rob, who is your underdog pick for week 2?
Give me the Bills to beat the Miami Dolphins. I believe they're on the road. I mean, last week you saw Josh Allen absolutely take over versus the Cardinals. Yes, they were down way too much, much more than they should have been to the Cardinals in the beginning. But he came back. I think he had 232 passing yards, which you wouldn't have expected, with all offseason. The entire story was about who's Allen going to throw to. But he was making key throws to guys like Mac Hollins. He had a bunch of yards. Dalton Kincaid didn't quite have the performance that I was expecting from him. Dawson Knox actually took over as the tight end from what I saw. But the Miami Dolphins, you struggled against the Jaguars last week, and obviously, you did end up beating them. Tyreek Hill, I mean, that he's going to be one of those guys you have to worry about, but he's always one of those guys you have to worry about. And the Bills have been, they've been adjusting to him for about 3 years now. So I just expect Josh Allen to take over again, and I think he's going to get it done versus the Dolphins.
Bell, who do you got?
Give me the Patriots plus 3.5 against Seattle this week. I think old man Jacoby Brissett, he should probably be in the care center. He's been in the NFL for way too long. I remember when he started in 2017 Thursday Night Football for New England.
7 years ago.
I know. Yeah.
Well, not that long.
Okay, but it's Jacoby Brissett. You watch
Rodgers out here. Yeah.
You watch him play. You think this man should not be on a football field. But anyway, and no hate for
Any
Jacoby
Patriots
Brissett.
player.
Roughly, yeah. But Jacoby Brissett, it's not more about the Patriots pass game. It's about Ramondre Stevenson and what he can do.
Oh, yeah.
Seattle, as a Broncos fan, it's a game we definitely could have won last week against Seattle. Bo Nix, who I had to refrain from talking about today, played not great. And that's kind of the reason we lost. But I don't think Seattle's that good. I mean, Geno Smith is just mid. Just kind of what he is. I mean, is he fine? No. He's whatever. I like New England plus 3.5. I think their defense is spectacular. And if you give Ramondre a couple open holes, I like the Patriots.
Jason, who's the underdog?
I have Raiders at plus 8.5 over the Ravens. Contrary to what Brian said earlier about the Ravens offense tearing it up, I think that the Raiders, with the help of Max Crosby, will be able to limit Lamar's rushing yards. I mean, he's always going to be a threat. He's always going to get some rushing, but I think the Raiders have a decent D-line and they could hold him.
What about the Raiders offense? I think they can.
I think the Raiders offense can totally do it with help from Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers, I think, is going to have a great week as the tight end.
Great last week, man.
And I think Devontae is also going to have a good week.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people are worried about the quarterback situation. You have Devontae, you have Brock Bowers. They both have great hands. Devontae, arguably the best hands of the league. You got to get the ball near him. The Ravens don't have the best corners. I mean, Devontae is going to go for a game.
Now, I'm picking Tampa Bay plus 7.5 to Detroit. I think Detroit wins this football game, but it'll be less than a touchdown. Baker Mayfield has the second most betting odds to win MVP behind Josh Allen from FanDuel and every other sports
It's
book.
been 1 week. Are we really taking that?
Yeah,
that's a little crazy.
Get out
Now
of here,
we
man.
are.
Yes.
I'm back on the Baker Mayfield
I
train.
love Baker.
Never hopped off.
Baker's great.
I love Baker Mayfield, but
Yeah.
come on.
I'd love to have him on here.
Second over.
He's got a Hall of Fame
Come on
wide
here,
receiver.
He seems
This
like
is
a
an open
great guy to
invitation to
talk
Baker
to.
Mayfield. If he ever just comes through New Canaan, Connecticut, he is welcome to come on this podcast.
I'd love that.
He's got the best wide receiver in football, best hands in football. He's got a future Hall of Famer. He's got Chris Godwin. He's got Jalen McMillan. The Lions did not look great against the Rams. Coach Campbell, he did a lot of stupid decisions on fourth down, which cost him a Super Bowl run last year. So I still think Detroit's going to come ahead on this one, but I think Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers are a team to watch, not just this week, but playoffs and Super Bowl.
I mean, I like that. I think
I don't know
Detroit,
about
like Henry thought, like Sam Laporta is, I think, a great tight end. I think I saw some comparisons to line in like a Shannon Sharp. I'm not too sure about that because I think Shannon Sharp right now is still all time great, but definitely give some time to Laporta.
Well, definitely right now. Yeah.
His endurance is
sure.
a little questionable, but we'll talk about that next episode. So, any other final takes for anyone?
Don't think so.
No,
That's it.
yeah.
All right.
You're all
We're doing good over here.
All right. So thank you for watching. This is the end of season 4, episode 1 of Beyond the Whistle. I'm Henry Lapin, Rob Frangione, Ryan Bell, and Jason Generalis. We'll see you next time on episode 2. Thank you.